It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That's Metallicash from their Ride to Lightning release with Fade to Black, the remastered version. And Chris on the phone here with us, a guy who knows all about that remastered shit and music and all that good stuff, is our good friend from Spotify, the global head of partner subscriptions. I think that's right. Our good friend, Michael Abbattista. Welcome to the Classic Metal Show there, Michael.
Hey, Neely. How are you guys?
Did I get your title correct?
You did.
Excellent. All right. Well, Spotify is a huge platform, obviously. It's one of the top platforms for digital music and podcasts and, you know, all kinds of audio media. And you're one of the big wigs over there, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been here about almost 5 years now, and it's been, I'll tell you, man, it's been really insane to actually be at a company that, is actually going in the right direction. After being at record companies for so many years that we were just sort of like treading water, Spotify has been, the arrow is still going up. And I think, our growth in the last 18 months or so, we're more bullish than ever because I think streaming is finally getting mainstream. People streaming has basically won. This is the way people are getting their music. And so I think that's probably the biggest change over the last few years. And now it's just a matter of, okay, who's going to basically convincing people that, this is a really good deal. I think people sort of the key to understanding Spotify, or the key to understanding the value, is using it. And the more people that use it, I think, realize, you know what, this is actually a really great deal. And whether you're using Spotify or some other service, $10 a month to have, basically the history of music at your disposal is a pretty sick, it's a pretty sick value once people realize what it is.
Absolutely. Well, I agree with you, Michael. Everything is going digital. I mean, I noticed that even over there at Amazon, they're offering HBO and all the, the TV shows that you could only get on cable. The TV outlets you could only get on cable, you can now subscribe through your Roku and stuff like that. So everything is digital download, whether it's video, audio, everything, and shopping, everything is digital or online. And Spotify just happens to be one of the better services out there for your digital media.
Thank you.
Well, Michael, let's talk about a couple of things here, because and you and I have talked off air, so to speak, about everything that goes on, and specifically because I'm in the industry a little bit, not as much as you, but I wanted to get an expert on this. We all hear all these bands talking their mad shit, talking about how they're getting ripped off, how Spotify doesn't pay them, how Apple Music doesn't pay them, that they have to do 400 billion plays to make $1.30. There's all this nonsense out there. So I guess that's a really good place to start, is talk about how Spotify determines what is paid and what they can put on their platform that can earn plays, which directly result in somebody getting paid. Sure.
So I first want to start by saying there's a website. It's called SpotifyArtist.com, where we're really transparent about how artists get paid, and there's so much information on there. And so that's the first place. It's if you want to hear more about any or read more about any of this stuff, it's all there in black and white, SpotifyArtist.com. But so I got a little echo there. Basically, we pay out $7. If we have a $10 subscription, we pay out $7 of that to rights holders. It's sort of very public. Actually, in last year, we're probably the most public private company I've ever seen. Our numbers are always leaking. And anyway, numbers leaked just a couple of weeks ago. Our financials from last year, and actually we paid 83%. So just 83% of every dollar that we make, we're paying out to rights holders. And so we are paying out, almost all of the money that we're taking in. I think where the confusion comes in is that we're paying the companies that we have deals with, which are the record labels. They're the major record labels. They're aggregators like IOTA different aggregators that have a lot of the indie labels. And so we're paying the money to them. We're paying publishers. And a lot of this money then okay, it's up to those organizations to pay their artists according to whatever deals they have. So it's true. A lot of times artists are getting, by the time the artists get the money and it's gone through their record company, they're getting, they're seeing fractions of fractions. And so I think that's where sort of it's not like there's anything sinister going on. I mean, the reality is the artists are getting paid according to the contracts that they have, whether it's with their publishing company, whether it's with the record company. And I think that kind of gets lost. And I have to say, man, it does bum me out because, you read stuff, Scotty and, streaming can, shove it up their ass and everything else, and we're getting screwed, and I don't know how artists can go on Spotify and, take this, they're ripping us off. No one's ripping anybody off. I think and then I also think that a lot of times, how the artists are getting paid, like who knows, there's very little transparency between labels and their artists. And so, they might get their royalty statement from, Elektra Records, like however many years later, and it might say, digital revenues, and they just get a number. So, like, there's a lot of stuff. We love transparency because what we're doing, we feel like we want people to know how much we're paying out. We've paid over $3 billion out to rights holders since we've been a company, and that number keeps going up. I mean, it's growing exponentially. This leaked out too. 37 million subscribers leaked out this month, so we've crossed that. It's 37 million paid subscribers. We have over 100 million people using the service. So, just to say that a different way, we have 63 million people using the free service. We have 37 million people who are actually paying for it. That's over 100 million people every month using the service. And we pay out on both the free and the paid tier, which I think is another thing that doesn't necessarily get understood. I think people are like, if it's on the free tier, we're not getting paid. No, actually, artists are getting paid for that as well. They're not getting paid as much as they are on their paid tier, but both of these tiers pay more than they would make on, let's say, a YouTube stream.
Okay. Now, how that, and I'm going to go back, I'm going to pick apart what you said a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
Scott Ian is complaining about it. I know for an absolute fact that For All Kings is on Spotify. So if Scott Ian doesn't want his music on Spotify, how does it end up on Spotify?
Because it comes through his record company. For All Kings is, and I'm drawing a blank. Who did that come out on?
Is that Nuclear Blast, maybe?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, we have a deal with Nuclear Blast, and they send us the stuff that they have. If they have the digital rights for All Kings, then we get it. And then we get it for, whatever territory in various territories, whoever has the licenses. And so, if Scott Ian's deal with whatever record company or Anthrax's deal includes digital distribution, then it's going to get fed to us, Apple Music, Rhapsody, etc.
Right. So then it would be up to him if he. So and I'm trying to understand this. I'm not trying to pick at you necessarily. I really try to understand how this works. So let's say, and I know for a fact that when For All Kings came out, they signed a deal for that record with Nuclear Blast. I know that to be true. So at that point, could they have said to Nuclear Blast, we're happy to sign with you, but one of our stipulations is not to be on the streaming mediums?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can keep your digital rights.
So they can do that even if you have an agreement with Nuclear Blast?
Yeah, there are some artists, like there's still a couple of big artists that haven't, and Chris, you even mentioned these, like there's still, Garth Brooks right. Still has his digital rights. Even though his, Capitol might have his old CD rights, he has his digital rights. Def Leppard, they have held on to their digital rights. There's, Tool has their digital rights, even though obviously their CD rights are somewhere else. Their physical, rights are somewhere else.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, but usually, the great majority of artists, probably 99% of them, when they do whatever kind of record deal they're doing, is there some sort of digital distribution included in that.
Okay, and more than likely, and I'm guessing, and you might not know this to be true or not true, but I'm going to guess that when they sign a deal, the record company says, well, we're not going to give you as much money if you take the digital off the table, because then they won't get paid from you or Apple or radio or whoever.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess where I get lost, and it's probably not your thing as much as you guys are just the fall guy for it, is so many of these bands take the shot at you being Spotify when ultimately they should be looking at themselves, because they're the ones that are giving up that right. No?
Yeah, right. And, I think it's just, as this whole streaming business scales, and it has been, like I said, I mean, this last year, between us and Apple Music, streaming has seen a year like it's never seen before in the last 12 months. We've grown. Apple hit the market last July. They've done about 15 million. We've had the biggest growth we've ever seen. Ironically, post Apple Music, this is becoming a mainstream thing. So I think as these checks to artists get bigger, as these fractions of pennies keep adding up, I think everyone is going to start feeling better about the fact that, wow, streaming is a way to, listen, artists can make a lot of money on Spotify, but it's not going to be the same as selling a download that they used to make, 30 cents on. For one download. This is going to be, it's a completely different way to get paid. It's perpetual payments, it's payments in perpetuity. So and I think that's what people fail to see too. I mean, it's just a completely different, form of monetizing. It's not one time and you get paid. It's for the rest of your life. You're going to get paid every time someone plays your song.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Now, one thing that I've seen in the news recently was that Apple, the big iTunes, I guess, not Apple, but iTunes, has announced that in 17 or 18, they're talking about stopping selling downloads altogether. Mm-hmm. Does that really, really open the door for not only them but you and everybody else to absolutely explode, because it's going to basically do away with all but one major distributor of MP3s?
Yeah, and I think it's already started. I mean, Apple Music is obviously, again, the more people that understand the value of $10 a month, you get everything, the less it makes sense to, download Lemonade, Beyonce for $18.99. It's just, I think they're already cannibalizing their own business and the download business. So, downloads were sort of a stopgap thing. It was fine for a while, and make no mistake, it's not like there was this super successful music download business. No, Apple had a successful business, iTunes had a successful business, but don't mistake that for a successful digital music business. I mean, there's only been a couple of companies that have proven that they can sell digital music. Apple's for sure one of them. I think we're one of the other ones. Pandora is, I would put them in the successful category in that, they have a business, they're a public company, but for the most part, there aren't that many entities that are successfully selling digital music, whether it's downloads or streaming.
Sure. Well, Michael, I see, people in our own chat room, making comments about artists being paid. One comment in the chat room, George Lynch took a picture of the check he got from Spotify, and it was only 22 cents.
But he didn't get the check. I guess I would say he probably didn't get the check from Spotify. He probably got the check from, either Elektra or, whatever other, I don't know what album that's from, that he's talking about. But I'm sure he got the check from his either record company or publishing company.
Yeah, probably Universal Music or something like that.
If it was for Smoke This, that's more. If it was for Smoke This, that's way more than it should got.
But you see how this kind of stuff,
oh, sure.
it influences people to make it look like Spotify is the devil. And it's just like it's not Spotify, it's your record label that you signed with that is either distributing your music to a Spotify or a Pandora or whomever it might be, and you're only getting the residuals of whatever's left over. It's
right.
Not Spotify ripping off the artist or something. It's the deal that they signed, and I'm just reiterating what Chris covered with you. It's the artist is receiving the digital royalties through his record label at whatever deal he had already signed with his record label.
Right, and another thing you don't know when you hear numbers like that. And I've heard, a lot of stuff on Jamie Johnson's podcast where they're talking about, and even Jamie said it, I don't make any money from Spotify, but there's another question in there about recoupment. Like, who knows what the record company is holding back? You know what I mean? They're still recouping from past, you know, probably a lot of these groups are not recouped. And so that's another factor, you know? It's, look, and I spent 10 years at major labels as well, and I think the only way that everyone's going to feel better about streaming and digital music is just more transparency. You know, again, like we can track, you know, if we can show every single, and we've tried to do this. I mean, we're not the only company that has made dashboards for artists that can tap into a lot of the big management companies, and even a lot of smaller ones tap into dashboards. They can see exactly how many streams they have. They can do the math themselves. So, you know, if they're getting, you know, 5 cents a month and they see that they've had 1 million streams, then, you know, they can see some of that. Now, if you think about it, record companies, you know, the more transparency there is, the more everybody has to be on the up and up. So, I mean, I think as an industry, we're not quite there yet, but I do think that it's getting to the point where, you know, look, it used to be you didn't really know how many records, you know, a number one selling record was just based on, you know, you called the record store and, you know, somebody would say, oh, yeah, it's top 5 this week. So SoundScan basically legitimized all sales. Then you had BDS, which legitimized broadcast data systems, which legitimized all radio play. It used to be, you know, oh, yeah, we're playing this song 30 times a week, and nobody had a way to track it. Well, in the early 90s, you know, the whole business got a lot more scientific with those things. Now the same thing has to happen to streaming music because we have all this data. We know exactly how many plays every song has. We know where it's coming from. We know so there's absolutely no reason that artists shouldn't know exactly how many spins they're getting on each song in Apple Music, what they should be paid for, Spotify, Amazon, whatever. We'll get there, but I think like right now it's just, you know, people are seeing, you know, digital dollars are not replacing the analog, or I should say digital pennies are not replacing the analog dollars quite yet for a lot of artists, and so it's, oh, we're getting ripped off, you know, the good old days, you know, are gone. Sure,
absolutely. Well, Michael, let's talk about something that's really important here. Obviously, you are a fan of what Chris and I do here on the Classic Metal Show. How did you find out about us? How did you stumble across the CMS?
God, I don't remember. You know, it may have been actually Pit Riff first, I think. I don't know. I liked Chris's reviews. I started reading like your album reviews. It was years ago, and then I realized you had a whole other thing going with Classic Metal Show. So I don't know, man. I've been listening to you guys for quite a few years. How old is the CMS?
20 years.
Holy crap. Well, it hasn't been that long, but it's probably been at least 10.
Wow.
So again, let's talk about something really important here. Now you've made you've made references to that the CMS should be played through the Spotify platform. How would that work, and where do you think we would fit in? Because Chris and I look at Spotify as being a little more, I don't know, more proper, a little more upper crust. And what Chris and I do, we're kind of bottom of the barrel. We're kind of the dregs of society when it comes to broadcast content. So would we sully the good name of Spotify by being on the Spotify platform?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you guys are probably pushing the envelope. You know, we added podcasts this year, and we added some short-form video content. And, you know, to be clear, the video content, it's not, you know, we have no interest of trying to be in Netflix or anything like that. You know, there are clips from ESPN and this and that, but it's stuff that's 5 to 10 minutes. Then, obviously, podcasts is probably where you guys would fit in. You know, we've been pretty lame about, like, I mean, I was hoping you guys would be a part of when we actually started launching podcasts, the launch, but I don't know, we've been kind of lame with getting, we need to expand I think we need to expand our metal.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just, but I mean, look, content-wise, I mean, you guys are probably, like, pushing it a little bit, but I don't know.
Just a little bit, huh?
See, that's been our big fear. Like, even
never say never.
Well, and I'll share something that I don't think we ever talked about on the air. Yeah. You and I and some people at Spotify had conversations, a year or two ago, about us being on the platform. And it's really not hard to do. But Neely and I then had the big fear of that we would be cutting our own throats because of the content, and we were kind of leery about that.
Yeah. When before any of the podcasts hit, they said, okay, give us the top, basically anyone who knew about a specific genre, they said give us the top 3 to 5 podcasts for me. So I actually did the metal one, and so you guys were in there, the obvious stuff, Eddie Trunk.
Who?
What else was in there? Yeah, exactly. I won't mention every other podcast. But, it was a very small list. And, I don't know what that... Basically, none of them are in there. It's not oh, yeah, we did everyone except... It's just we got to get our shit together and get more metal up there. We've done you're going to see more and more, I think, original program. And I also think you're going to see way more podcasting, more focus on it. It's just tough because, we try to introduce things without sort of changing what we are, so it's tough. We're always adding stuff, but then you can only add so much at a time before people just start getting confused again. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to surface all this stuff within the app. It's amazing to me how many people and okay, I'm a little bit of an older demo, but I know people that have been paying for Spotify for years, and they don't even realize that you can go into a browse section and see genres. It's amazing to me. These are people who pay every month. They go in, they do a search of their favorite. Bob Seger wouldn't be in there, but he's another one who has his digital rights. But they'll go do a search, and that's the only way they use it, and they don't even realize that there's radio stations and other stuff. So. It's hard, as dumb as it sounds, it's hard to get people to use the different things that are actually in the app.
Yeah. I'm just now looking at the browse. I've never looked at this before.
See? Dude, go in the metal section. There's some good stuff in there. All those playlists and stuff.
I've never looked at this page on my phone.
Well, Michael, if there was a place for the CMS through Spotify, I would, I would not bitch and complain how Spotify was ripping me off for broadcasting my content. So,
Appreciate it.
If you think that we could fit in there and we're not going to catch any heat or get canceled or
get you fired
for bringing us on board, I'd be glad to be part of the Spotify family.
I'd love to get you guys in there. We should definitely take another look at it. And Chris, seriously, this is we can take this off air, and
okay.
We actually have a different person running it from. I think you spoke to. Well, I won't say his name on the air, but I think there's someone different doing it than who you spoke to now.
Okay.
So I'm happy to make that reintroduction.
So if I could get fractions of a cent for my my podcast, and the rest of it go to, I don't know, your personal pocket or, wherever it needs to go, I'd still take that.
Deal.
Perfect. All right, Michael, let's talk a little bit about the app just for a minute. Sure. I'm going to give you the good, and then I'm going to complain about one thing.
Yeah.
All right. The good, and to me, this is the best feature that this absolutely kicks Apple and Amazon Music's ass in, is that you have the setting in your app where it changes the bandwidth based on your connection, which is the fucking bomb. Because instead of, and I've done the test because now I'm back on a freaking data plan with my phone, to listen to an album for an hour in my car, and me who drives 4 or 6 hours a week, to listen to an album on Amazon Prime or on Apple is about 600 megs. On you guys' platform with the adjustment, it's 70 meg, which is beautiful. That is unbelievable technology there for me. So
awesome.
That's the good. The bad, and I don't know, this has got to be something that you guys are probably dealing with, but you're just not used to power idiots like me that will use this like crazy. I use the offline, listen offline, or make it available offline, whatever that
right.
is called. But you're limited to how many songs you can bring down. You can only bring down. You can only bring down. I think I read somewhere 3,000 songs, and while that may be good for the normal fan, for the retard like me, that's way too low.
So, Chris, you actually hit up against that limit?
Oh yeah.
Like where you get a message saying you can't have any more songs?
It says that it comes on and says that I've reached the limit and that I need to delete some songs in order. And the other thing with that too, and again, I know I'm nitpicking, but it's because I am a very power user on this. Even if you don't download the songs, but you save the albums, if you just save the albums, you also hit a limit. You can only save so many albums.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you come up to a limit because you can follow, and that's what I've kind of done now. Is I've downloaded like my 3,000 songs, and then I went and followed all the bands that I like to listen to, because then I could just click, on the individual band, and then it brings me up their full catalog, and I can just click it and listen. But yeah, there are limits, and I'm not a fan of limits.
Yeah, I'm not either. And, these limits are there not because clearly we'd want to do away with those. It's all licensing. It's just licensing. And you know what? You can see those go away potentially in our next. Look, it's always been, I think, one place that Spotify has really pushed the envelope for the whole industry has been with licensing different rights. We were the first ones to license an ad-supported free tier like we have. Every market that we're in has the free tier as well as the paid tier. And the reason we have that is because the free tier that's our number one marketing platform. We know that if we can get people to start using the free tier, we have a pretty good chance. Thank God most people like the product, and we have a pretty good chance of converting them. And so there used to be a lot of limits on the free tier as well. It used to be you can only play songs 5 times and all this bullshit. And we were able to every time that we do a new license with the Warners and the Universal, Sonys, we try to do away with some of these things that people just, again, this should be, if you're paying $10 a month, yeah, probably, I agree with you. You shouldn't have a limit on, 3,000 is a limit that, thank God not most people hit. Chris, I understand you're the exception, but I hear you. It's, limits just piss people off, and it makes them go, oh, even if it's a great service, the last thing you want is a message saying you can't do something.
Right. Well, and for me, the reason I do it is so that I don't waste bandwidth, which is the reason you're supposed to. And again, and this is only how I'm thinking only. This is probably not every person, but I literally use my phone now as my iPod. I've replaced all my iPods and Zunes and all that shit with now, I have an iPhone 6 or 6S. And, it has a 128 gig hard drive. So I want to fill it with 100 gig of music so that, because like I said, I'm driving all the time. For me, it's perfect to have everything that I want where I can just say, hey, Siri, play whatever, Bruno Mars, and it plays, so, and that would be another limitation too on Spotify, is that it's not tied into the Siri concept yet, but I'd imagine Apple's not going to make that easy for you.
No, and that's one place where, Apple does have an unfair advantage, right? They're keeping Siri for themselves, at least right now. We do work with Echo.
Okay.
And you can make it your default. You can make Spotify your default, so you can just say, play Bruno Mars, and the Echo will play it. Ooh, but now it's Siri.
That's just an app, right? Echo is an app that you can plug
Echo
in,
is the Amazon. It's Amazon's device where you can talk to it. So you say, like, Alexa, what's the weather today? And they say it's 72 degrees. So it's this artificial intelligence. It actually is an amazing device, guys. It's $179. Now I'm doing a commercial for Amazon, but it's a great app, and so it's totally integrated with Spotify. So, when I'm sitting in my kitchen, I just talk to it. And it's actually a really good speaker, too. So I'll say, Alexa, play For All Kings. And then it will play For All Kings, and it comes from Spotify. You could also play it from Amazon Music. You can set the default, either Spotify or Amazon. So we work with that, and it's pretty awesome because it's just all, it's all audio. You're just talking to it.
I like it. I definitely like it. Well, as you know, man, I'm an extreme power user, and Neely and I both use the platform thanks to you for hooking us up. And oh my God, dude, I don't know. I cannot even explain. And Neely will tell you too. We use this thing. I use it at least 10 hours a week. I don't know if that's a lot or a little, but I love it.
Yeah, I run 3 to 4 miles a night, and I have that playing on my iPhone, so I use the Spotify for that.
Look, man, I mean, think about, like, running 3 or 4 hours, what you have had to do in, like, the old world, You would have, I don't know, you had your CD Discman or something and listening to the same album over and over again. It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible how much. I do think that people, the engagement with this, like, and again, with I think most of these music apps, is so high because it's just so easy to listen to so much stuff. And so it's an ingredient, I think, to more and more parts of your life because it's always just right there with you with your phone.
Sure. Well, Michael, we appreciate you coming on the show and kind of clearing some things up for the fans, even though I think we've explained it pretty thoroughly. We still have a couple of doubters in the chat room saying, tell Spotify to go fuck themselves. So apparently the deals that some of these artists work out with their labels blame Spotify for whatever residuals they're getting or not getting.
Yeah. You can also do direct deals with us. I mean, that's the other thing. But, I mean, most artists are on labels.
Sure.
And, there are very few artists that we deal with directly. And, like the Metallicas of the world, we've done some stuff directly. And so, the checks we send to them, there's no label in the middle.
That's
they're getting
right.
their full, but, they're Metallica. I realize that's not most band situations.
Well, we had Lars on earlier tonight, and,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he let us know about the new Metallica release coming up in the fall called what, Chris?
Saint Apathy.
Saint Apathy.
Oh, God. Can't wait. Yeah, it's supposed to be, what did he say? It's more diverse or something. I don't know.
Sure.
We can only hope.
Yeah, well, whatever. Chris will be first in line to listen to it, and then he'll go, it wasn't all that.
I can't wait.
All right, Michael, anything else you want to tell the fans?
No, I think I've said enough. Hopefully, if you haven't checked us out, give us again. The free tier is pretty awesome. So even if you don't pay, there's a lot you can do. You can listen to basically the way the free tier works. Just real fast, if you're on your mobile, it's basically shuffle. So you can put any artist, any playlist, any album, and it shuffles it for you. So you can't listen to the exact song. It's not exactly on demand, but it's better than Pandora in that you can actually, focus on a specific artist or a specific album, and it's a sort of a shuffle experience. There's no offline. That's what you have to pay for, and then there's some other things that, obviously there's some other features that we make you pay for. But the free tier itself is actually pretty good. Sometimes we struggle, is it too good? But I think if you're a real music fan and you start using the free tier, it's, at a certain point you say, I should be paying for this because this is just, it's kind of ridiculous that.
Well, since you guys are ripping artists off, what difference does it make if you're giving away their product for nothing?
By the way, like I said, the artists are getting paid on the free tier because we take advertising and blah, blah, blah.
So good. All right, Michael. Well, we appreciate you giving us the inside scoop on the business behind streaming media, and I'm a fan of Spotify, and I appreciate the hookup, and I listen to it every day, and it's good stuff. So I'm a fan. I like what you guys do. You got a great product, and you guys are kicking ass out there. So thanks for being a fan, and thanks for being a friend.
Thanks, Neely. Anytime, guys.
All right. Well, can I play a song for you, Michael?
Sure.
What do you want to hear?
How about a little Lynch Mob?
Oh, my. Look at that. George will need a couple. Yeah, you got to get him a couple more pennies.
How about Lynch Mob, Arizona? Isn't that song on... Wait, something in Arizona. I'm trying to think of something from Smoke This, which I haven't listened to in about 20 years.
God.
Smoke This.
No, I don't care. Whatever you guys want is fine.
All right. Well,
Smoke This. I want to hear it.
I think
relaxing. Tracks. Play that. Yeah. Relaxing in the land of Arizona.
That's
that's that.
Track 7.
Nice. Wow. Wow, you picked the winner there, Michael.
I'm just gonna say you get a fuck you award for me for even knowing that. Jesus Christ.
Oh, wait, I did. That was the sound of half of your audience tuning out.
Yeah, that's it. All right, Michael. Well, we'll talk again.
Good night, guys.
All right, we'll see you.
Hey, this is George Lynch of Lynch Mob, and you're listening to my good friend Neely on the Classic Metal Show.